Hello and a very warm welcome to this year's WE Innovate Final 2021. I'm your host, Raya Al-Salahi, and I really am delighted to join you to celebrate women's entrepreneurship at Imperial, along with the incredible achievements of the female participants who've taken part in this year's programme. Now, it's a journey which started back in December when 22 teams were selected from over 150 applicants, thanks to their innovative ideas and potential business growth. The teams faced a series of intensive masterclasses, business coaching and mentoring, with 10 making it to the semi-finals, pitching to investors and industry panels for a chance to be a part of this final, which culminates here. And I'm really pleased to be welcoming the 5 finalist teams competing for the grand prize with a share of a £30,000 prize fund up for grabs. So firstly, just a huge congratulations to all of you for getting this far, and fingers crossed for you. Through the course of this stream, we'll also be announcing the winners of the Lauren Dennis Award, voted for by the public in our online poll, as well as the Engineers in Business Award presented to the most promising engineering students. So all of that to look forward to. Throughout this video stream, you can share your comments using the live chat feature on our YouTube channel, and the team is on hand to answer any questions you might have. Now, in just a moment, I'm going to introduce the teams, but first, let's hear a bit more about Enterprise Lab, and for that, I'd like you to please join me in welcoming Imperial Enterprise Lab's Head of Programmes and Partnerships, Sarah Ranchev-Hale. Sarah, welcome, and over to you.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Sarah, and I'm Head of Programmes and Partnerships at the Imperial Enterprise Lab. For those of you who don't know, the Enterprise Lab is the college's Centre for Student Innovation and Entrepreneurship, and we support well over 2,000 students and recent alumni every year, alongside postdocs. We support them to develop entrepreneurial skills, meet new people, and of course, to launch new ventures. Imperial is the only UK university to focus entirely on science, engineering, medicine, and business. And our student innovations and startups are, as you would probably expect, pretty incredible, and they do have the power to impact the world. From tackling climate change through to innovations, there's nothing that our community can't achieve. Of the many activities that we run at the Enterprise Lab, from skill sessions and talks to fully fledged pre-accelerator programs and accelerators, such as WE Innovate, which is why we're all here today, we are so proud to support some of the world's best students to achieve really great things. We're celebrating 6 years of inspirational women-led teams whose passion and intellect absolutely makes me proud to be part of Imperial. Since we launched WE Innovate, we've supported over 400 women to grow their leadership skills, test their ideas, and launch new businesses. Our WE Innovate alumni have gone on to raise in excess of £16 million, and that's just the ones that we know about. And I'm delighted to say that next academic year, we'll be launching a new initiative, WE Accelerate, so hot off the press. As many of you will know, today, women entrepreneurs continue to face barriers in accessing capital to grow their business. And there is a significant drop-off in support for founders at pre-seed stage. And women's average starting capital is 50% less than men. So this brand new programme, WE Accelerate, responds to some of these findings and helps to bridge the gap in support between pre-accelerator and seed stage. So we'll be offering women-led teams access to a series of masterclasses, coaching and mentoring with a very specific focus on fundraising and investment. So if you want to find out more about the fantastic teams from WE Innovate, both past and present, and our new WE Accelerate programme, or any of the other activities at the Enterprise Lab, you can do so by getting in contact with me or a colleague, and we'll post the details in the chat for you. There's plenty of opportunities to partner with us if you want a student or alum. But if you are, and you're interested in joining us next year, keep a lookout for applications opening for both WE Innovate and WE Accelerate this autumn term. I personally am especially grateful to Alexis Gerard St James, Kate Bingham and Sam Skell for the job of judging our finalists this afternoon. So thank you for your commitment to supporting these exceptional women. And finally, I want to mention our wonderful programme manager, Ala Ismail, who does an absolutely fantastic job running the WE Innovate programme and supporting all of our teams over the past 6 months. So with that, enjoy the final. I'd like to hand back to Raya. Over to you.
Thanks very much, Sarah. Now, the importance of women in entrepreneurship and STEM is, of course, at the heart of this event. And for more on the significance of that, I'd like to now welcome Imperial College London's Vice President International, Associate Provost Academic Partnerships, Professor Maggie Dorman. Maggie, welcome, over to you.
Many thanks, Rhea, and thank you for being here and hosting the event today. It's really an absolute pleasure to welcome everybody to the WE Innovate Final 2021. I'm delighted to be supporting the programme once again this year, and it is one of the highlights of my year. But I very much look forward to hearing more about the ideas and the teams that have come up with them over the past 6 months. Whilst today we're obviously focusing on the 5 finalist teams, I wanted to extend my congratulations to the entire WE Innovate cohort for their achievements over the course of the programme, and to stress that this event is an opportunity to celebrate everybody that's participated in the programme. Every single one of them has shown incredible resilience, that all important feature, resilience, and determination in participating in WE Innovate, despite all the difficulties over the past year. Their ability actually to adapt to working in an online format and to collaborate effectively with the team members distributed across the globe, I think really showcases their entrepreneurial spirit, which I'm sure will set them up for success in the future. Supporting women's entrepreneurship at Imperial not only helps our female students, graduates and alumni achieve their potential, but also promotes the significant contributions which women make to our society. Nowhere is this more important really than in STEM fields, where young women are still woefully underrepresented. It's heartening though to see the diversity of students that we've attracted to Imperial reflected in our cohort. This year has provided a stark reminder of the importance of championing founders from all backgrounds and of promoting the values of equality, diversity and inclusion in our community. Really properly tapping into the pools of talents that have been neglected for too long. Now for a few thank yous. I'd like to extend special thanks to BP for supporting the programme again this year and for their sponsorship of the prize fund. This fund will undoubtedly have a huge impact on the businesses who receive it. I'd also like to thank the industry experts and WE Innovate graduates who have peer mentored the teams and shared both their time and expertise. Their insights have been really an invaluable source of wisdom for our participants, and they're certainly one of the features which makes WE Innovate really, truly unique. Thanks all to our amazing judges. You're all very, very busy people, and we're incredibly grateful to you all for finding the time to be here today. And finally, I'd like to thank the Enterprise Lab under Ben, in particular Sarah, Alla and the team for pulling together the whole programme and facilitating all of the events, including today. And you know, I've worked alongside them championing the programme now for 6 years, as we've heard, and really without the Enterprise Lab and the team that work on this project, we would not have been in the place that we are now with the success that we've had over the past 6 years. So with that, I'll hand back to Rhea.
Many thanks, Maggie. Now, every year, WE Innovate brings together a panel of esteemed judges from across industry and academia to help select the most promising startups. Our judging panel this year has extensive experience in running and scaling ventures with an impressive resume. And I'm really pleased to introduce them to you now, starting with Alexis Gerard-James, Managing Partner at Merriam Ventures, Kate Bingham, Managing Partner at SV Health Managers LLP, and Sam Scarey, SVP, BP Launchpad and Ventures. A very warm welcome to you all. Alexis, I'd like to start with a brief introduction from you if we can, and to ask you why for you it's so important to invest in women-led ventures at Merriam Ventures.
I'm delighted to be a judge for the WE Innovate 2021 award. It's essential we empower women entrepreneurs with programs like WE Innovate, which provide essential commercial and leadership skills to build successful companies. Over half university graduates are women. It's crucial they are given the same opportunities and funding to advance their skills and innovation.
I'd like to now move on to our second judge, Kate, who has had, I think it's fair to say, an extraordinary year chairing the UK's vaccine task force and manufacturing the COVID-19 vaccine here in the UK. Kate, welcome. How significant has the spirit of entrepreneurship been in leading this campaign?
Thank you. I think it's been completely central because governments, wherever they are in the world, are not known for generally speedy decision making and fast action. And what we've seen here is not only have we seen speedy decision and fast action, but we've seen a fantastic collaboration between small companies, academics, and larger companies to actually bring the best of all skills and capabilities together to actually find vaccines in and develop them and get them into people's arms in completely record speed. I mean, the previous most rapid vaccine development ever was mumps, which was done in 5 years from identifying the virus through to an approved vaccine. And that was done 50 years ago. So this is a massive change in how we're developing vaccines. And this could not have been done without entrepreneurial, innovative, and collaborative working, which I think has been done phenomenally well throughout the world.
Fantastic, Kate. Thank you for joining us. And over to Sam now. And Sam, I'm interested to hear what you feel supporting up and coming ventures, hearing about them, brings to your work with BP Launchpad and Ventures.
Thank you. And I think I'd be remiss if I didn't thank Kate for her work on behalf of all of us, actually. So thank you, Kate. It's actually an honour to meet you. To your question, Rhea, I think a programme like this is truly fundamental, because if I think about what we are trying to do at BP in terms of the strategy that we've announced in getting to a carbon net zero world and really pushing towards that, it's going to take real innovation to get there. It's going to take very different solutions, and that will come in many different forms. And it will require a diverse set of people who bring that. So programs like this are critical in terms of giving an opportunity to people, to women in particular, in terms of leading these teams, to progress those ideas and to practice that whole process of taking something from inception all the way to commercializing. And for us at BP, it's critical, therefore, to see that talent developed, because we need talent like that in our company and as do others, throughout our industry and the others that are represented even here today.
Sam, thank you so much, and many thanks to our judging panel. You've got your work cut out for you today. Now that you've met all of the judges, it is now time to introduce the teams competing for the grand prize. Each team is going to be asked to briefly introduce themselves before we hear a 5-minute pitch, followed by a 10-minute Q&A from the judges. Once all of the 5 teams have pitched, the judges will then go away and deliberate on the winners. And first up, I'm going to ask our first team, the co-founder of Happier Health, Nicola Filmosa, to introduce herself and her team. Nicola, over to you.
Hi, Rhea, and hi to all the team and to the judging panel. I'm Nicola. I'm the co-founder of Happier Health, where we are developing pain management for young people. I myself have had chronic pain since I was 4 years old, and it's essential that we help our future generations to live a happy, but also a healthy and hopefully happier life. Looking forward to the pitch.
Well, talking of the pitch, it is now time to take a look at that. So let's have a look at the pitch for Happier Health.
I'm Nicola, co-founder of Happier Health, where we are developing the pain therapy young people actually want. I myself have been experiencing chronic pain since I was 4 years old, and I'm not the only one. 1 in 4 young people worldwide experience chronic pain, and it's not just the physical symptoms that challenge us, but the emotional and social challenges. At the same time, we only get support for acute physical pain symptoms. However, existing solutions, be it face-to-face therapy, but also digital mental health solutions, have been shown to reduce pain, to improve quality of life, and also treatment effectiveness. However, these are often not accessible. They're standardized for everybody, and they're only snapshot support, not continuous, as is necessary for chronic pain. Happier Health will be providing this personalized and continuous pain management support. We are developing a mobile app which is accessible to a wide patient group, and in which, through gamification and storytelling, we engage young people in responding and dealing with their chronic pain. We provide an emotional and physical diary in which young people can become more aware of what's going on. And at the same time, we're using these insights to match with our artificial intelligence algorithm the best coping techniques from, for example, cognitive behavioral therapy. Chronic pain is not only a challenge for myself and a few others, it's a major healthcare concern. And we're starting to support those with primary headaches, age 10 to 24, but from there we aim, and it is our goal, to expand our support to other chronic pain conditions and also other age groups. While there are existing applications, consumer-focused apps, health apps, but also face-to-face psychotherapy, they are lacking in the combination of the gold standard in pain management, which is looking at physical symptoms, but also emotional and social well-being, and adding this with engagement, with gamification, so young people really stick to their pain management. We will be making our first mobile version of the app available to families directly through premium subscriptions. And we're expecting 1 year after launch, 170,000 downloads. At the same time, we're working further with charities and hospitals to gather the clinical evidence that allows us to make the app available through hospitals and clinician recommendations. We have tested not only our value proposition and the unmet need, but also the market through 5 prototypes, which we tested with families and young people, over 200 families and young people, but also together with our 13 partners. And these partnerships include, for example, charities such as the National Migraine Center, but also international charities and pain clinics, as well as NHS trusts. At the same time, we received the validation for Happier Health as a patient-led startup from, for example, ERT Health, or just recently with the Innovate UK Women in Innovation Award. So who are we? As I mentioned before, I have experienced chronic pain and I'm still experiencing chronic pain, as did my co-founder. We know what the challenge is, but also we have the professional expertise in product design and managing high-performing startup teams, such as our team with the expertise in artificial intelligence, in mobile app development, but also on the clinical side, so we can validate our content. Where are we now? We are currently, with the feedback we got from the patient interaction, the clinician interaction we had, we're developing the first version of the mobile Happier Health app, together with the Women in Innovation Award. But we believe that WE Innovate is vital in bridging the gap to our next steps, because WE Innovate, and together with Imperial, we can get support on both the clinical side, but also the vital business support to get us to our next pilot project, which is necessary so we can raise a seed round by the end of the year to expand our application not only to headaches, but also other pain conditions. And from there, we can provide the support, be the platform to provide personalized pain management for everybody who experiences a chronic illness. So I'm very much looking forward to continue the work together with WE Innovate to develop the pain therapy young people actually want.
Okay, well done, Nicola, on a brilliant first pitch. I'm going to now ask our judges to join us and cross over to judges for our Q&A now. And Alexis, I'd like to start with you.
Fascinating application for pain management. And when I was listening to your presentation and looking at the various modalities that you're using, the one question that came to mind is, what aspect of the app do you think directly treats pain? So is it the gamification? Is it the community support? When you talk about pain management and pain relief, have you looked at the variables and which one is most effective?
Yes, so in general, I think there's no clear answer to that, because pain management in general, there's no one solution. even a pill is not the one solution, because pain is so complex and subjective. So this might be different for everybody. Some people respond better to distraction, so they might prefer the storyline and dealing with or using videos. Others might prefer the actual relaxation exercises or reviewing the data that they put into their pain diary together with a healthcare professional. So this will unfortunately be very individual, but what we will generally test is the effectiveness, of course, on the quality of life, also pain frequency and pain intensity. And we have currently set up, together with the Leeds NHS Trust, a first acceptability study that then leads to this exact efficacy study where we can look at the different aspects of the app.
And just one follow-up question: do you do surveys to ask who's doing the diary, who values what the most?
Yes. So we started with that very early, and one of our main insights was that we have to split up the diary for young people into a parent side and the patient side, because a lot of young people don't know, for example, the exact milligrams they take and what the name of the medication is. So we can get a better picture of all of them.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Alexis. Kate, over to you next.
Great, well done, Nicola. That was fantastic. Well presented, very clear. My questions are really around your competitive situation and how you will both maintain the advantage that you've described, but actually stop, whether it's reflectively or M-Sense, Migraine Buddy, how you stop them from just jumping on and replicating exactly what you've got.
Yes, very good point. And I was thinking that this question might come from you because you're in the biotech or biosector where predictability is very important, which is very difficult for digital solutions in the healthcare sector. We know that, but what we have built is the community. So we are accepted not as just a product, as for example, Migraine Buddy, as I mentioned, but really as a community member who is also providing emotional support to parents. So we've built this network from the very beginning in a very specific area, the parents and also the young people. And we have also built have the expertise in the team on the gamification and behavior change aspects, which are at the moment lacking because other apps, especially for migraine, look especially at the data generation on health data, whereas we also look at the behavioral insights. So with our AI algorithm, we already are one step ahead by combining these two areas. And of course, it's a challenge. And we also want to look how we can eventually work together with them, because we believe collaboration is key as we provide different aspects, but to the same condition.
And related to that is, I mean, I thought your revenue model seemed sensible, actually, because I don't think this is something you can charge vast amounts for. So I think it's something that people can easily say yes to and buy it. My question, though, is how long will you retain your customers for? Do you have any evidence from the competition as to how long people actually stay using these apps?
Yes, so on the migraine side, we have some insights from Migraine Buddy, which you mentioned before, where they actually retain customers for over several years. So on average, 1.5 years, because of the tracking aspect. And we have that included as well, but also we look at the emotional well-being, which, as we see trends in general apps and consumer focusing apps as well, where they are used regularly and also more often and for longer durations by younger generations, as monitoring your own health becomes more and more important. And as we gather this hub of data, then changing the different app is difficult.
Thank you.
Okay, next to you, Sam.
Hi, great job, Nicola. Yeah, a couple of questions. I was somewhat unclear about the medical underpinnings of the app, and so wondered if you could say a bit more about that in terms of, you know, how does it come together as a solution? So if you like, what's the medical science underpinning it? That was my first question.
Yes, so we are working especially with pain management techniques that have shown evidence for pain management from the psychological side. So this mainly is cognitive behavioral therapy, which has shown effectiveness in reducing pain and pain frequency over 50% in, for example, young people and adolescents with migraine. And we are, together with especially our main advisor, Dr. Connelly, working on the content for the CBT we include. So these are relaxation techniques, but also cognitive techniques, which we're including in the app. So they are validated by an expert in the field. And then, of course, through different studies.
Got it. Thank you. Thanks. And then my other question was actually related to revenue and affordability, and just thinking about, so who is your target market and how do they afford it? Because I agree with Kate, you know, on one level it's an affordable amount per month, but it wouldn't be for everybody. And so I wondered if you thought about, so who's the target market and how do they access that?
Yes, so I fully agree. We start with the B2C model for areas, especially UK, also US and Germany and different areas in Europe. But what we are developing together with some advisors is a model where we can provide, as soon as somebody in a developed country signs up, that we can also provide a free account accessible for underprivileged areas. So that's a social aspect we want to include as soon as possible. And on the other hand, we are at the moment, so we have tested the desirability and the feasibility very well. And we are now, especially with this award, would test the viability of the business. So understanding also on the B2B side, with hospitals, with pain clinics, insurances, how viable our solution is there and how we can change it and adapt it to their needs so that we can be a profitable and sustaining business.
Great, thank you.
Well done, Nicola. That brings us on to the second team to pitch, and for that I'd like to invite the founder of NeuroSoul, Ambreen Mohammed, to join us. And before we hear her pitch, I'd like Ambreen to introduce herself and her team. Over to you.
Hi everyone, my name is Ambreen and I am the founder of NeuroSoul. At NeuroSoul we aim to empower patients with diabetes to take control of their foot symptoms, and it's lovely to meet you all, and I'm looking forward to speaking to you all a bit more about NeuroSoul.
Fantastic, thank you, Ambreen. And time now for your pitch, so let's take a look at that.
Hi, my name is Ambreen and I am the founder of NeuroSoul. The idea of NeuroSoul came to me around a year ago when I was working at the pharmacy and I was speaking to this young woman with diabetes. She was anxious about diabetic neuropathy. She felt as though no matter how hard she tried, it was inevitable that she would develop symptoms. And most of all, she was terrified of losing her independence to diabetes. Currently in the UK, there are 4.8 million patients with diabetes, and this number is only set to rise, with an expected 438 million people in the world by 2030. 15% of all diabetics develop foot ulcers, and this leads to one amputation every single hour. The NHS currently spends £900 million treating diabetic foot ulcers and its complications. This is more than the combined cost of treating breast, lung, and prostate cancer. Luckily, in the UK, all patients are eligible for an annual foot check. This means that clinicians can detect the early signs of neuropathy. However, with 12 months between appointments, patients often progress and the early signs are missed. Additionally, over the last 5 years, 40,000 patients have not been offered their annual foot check due to cuts in the NHS. Appointments are also limited by transportation and most recently by COVID, with only those at high risk being assessed. Current at-home solutions require patients to follow YouTube videos to assess their foot health. This leaves patients confused as they often do not know what they are looking for. And this is exactly where NeuroSoul comes in. NeuroSoul is a smart insole that empowers patients with diabetes to take control of their foot symptoms. NeuroSoul allows patients to continuously monitor and track early signs of inflammation and circulation, providing patients with real-time advice and updates depending on their circulation status. NeuroSoul also guides patients through a streamlined foot examination, personalizing questions depending on their previous symptoms. With one of the major obstacles in access to foot care being language barriers, Neurosol is also available in a multitude of languages. And we are already gaining traction, working closely with members from both Know Diabetes and Diabetes UK, as well as the Imperial NHS Trust. We surveyed 68 patients with diabetes and found that 89% would like their feet to be examined more frequently, with 68% saying they would examine more frequently at home if they knew how. When Neurosol launches, we will be the only wearable technology providing real-time updates and advice and providing the most holistic experience. Currently, the NHS spends £525 per person on bespoke footwear. However, with Neurosol being offered at £25 on a monthly subscription, this could save the NHS £225 per patient. This would be equivalent to £18 million every single year. Currently, I'm a sole founder in the penultimate year of my medical school degree with over 6 years experience working with the diabetes community. I'm also in the process of recruiting an engineer to support me in my venture. I've also assembled an esteemed panel of advisors with Dr. Neil Hill and Alex Sangster working closely with the diabetes community of London, as well as Professor David Lawrence, a lecturer at Imperial Business School with over 35 years experience working within the NHS and supporting medical startups. Currently, we are in phase 1 of our business model, developing prototypes for both insole and software. We hope to move on to phase 2 to start testing with users and recruiting a software developer to develop our alpha software. In phase 3, we hope to set up scientific studies and secure grant funding. This will support us in achieving our overall aim to provide Neurosol on a subscription service, as well as selling through wholesalers and pharmacies. With £15,000, we could be catapulted into phase 2 of our business model, developing our MVP for insole, as well as our alpha software. For our future, we hope to license Neurosol to GPs and CCGs, improving access to remote foot care monitoring to 90% of the UK population. Additionally, we hope to expand Neurosol to other neuropathic conditions, as well as building a social enterprise to supply Neurosols to those from low-income countries. Join us on our journey and step towards preventing diabetic neuropathy.
Thank you, Ambreen, another brilliant pitch there. Time now to cross back over to the judges, and Alexis, starting again with you.
Thank you, Ambreen, well done. I've really enjoyed hearing about this innovation and such an important problem to address. The question I had is normally where I go first, and that's the technology. So you talked a lot about the application and how it relates to the app and the early detection, but what is the technology that's embedded and how would that work? What's the interoperability? Is it with a phone? Is it with a computer?
Yeah, so the insole itself is using temperature sensors to assess changes in circulation as well as inflammation. And ideally it would be used with an app, so you could use it on your mobile phone and you could track the changes in inflammation. And that's really key because that's one of the early stages and signs of neuropathy. So if patients can detect that earlier on, they would be able to sort of intervene and get help as soon as possible. As well as that, it can also be used without the mobile phone as well. So it can just be used as an insole because many diabetic patients do require insoles just as preventative measures to prevent damage to the foot as well.
And then a sub-question to that is barriers to entry. And so if it's heat sensor and related to an app and or computer, how do you intend to protect the innovation? Are you thinking about patents? Have you applied for patent? And how would you address the barriers to entry?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm looking into patenting at the moment. Before doing that, I do want to really solidify the physical prototyping of my product first, just so I can be sure that I'm filing the correct patent for the right things. But the aim is to patent, and then that will hopefully protect the IP on moving forward into commercializing. Excellent, thank you.
Okay, next over to you, Kate.
Great. So thank you again. I've enjoyed that presentation. Tell me about the pricing, because I'd like to understand what the relative effectiveness is basically of a face-to-face assessment versus what you project the insole should be able to do. So I doubt this is really going to be a price-driven product in the same way, as in it's going to be more about identifying issues early and intervening much more aggressively before there's any issue. So I wasn't sure that sort of that saving, the way you described it, was necessarily how I would do it. But tell me about the pricing, because on the face of it, that seems something that forever, if you're going to be doing that, I just wonder what the basis of what the customers think about that.
Yeah, definitely. So for a lot of patients at the moment, they are receiving foot appointments on NHS. But the issue is that recently with COVID and even prior to that, about 40% weren't receiving appointments. So they were having to then go privately. And so for them, each appointment would be about £60. And if they were getting that regularly, sort of 3 times a year, that was becoming quite an extortionate expense for them at the patient side. So in that regard, having something that they could do at home would be more affordable and more convenient for them. But even looking with regards to the NHS themselves, they already have shortages of nurses and doctors who can actually carry out these foot exams as it is. So being able to save money with regards to appointments, but also when it comes to further down the line with complications, with developing foot ulcers and even amputations, that costs an extortionate amount for the NHS.
And the standard of care is otherwise, except for those who are, I guess, have progressed to the stage where they're starting to get ulcers, standard of care of otherwise is just once a year, is it, assessment?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just once a year.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next over to you, Sam.
Hi, Ambreen. Really clear pitch. Thank you for that. And I have to say, kind of looking at it through the pitch, it looks to be incredibly user friendly. So, kind of that stood out to me. I'm interested in the revenue model. So you've got the direct subscription. You then talked about licensing. Can you talk a bit about that? And can you talk about the margin in terms of the product? And where I'm going to is, your cost to manufacture, just to understand that a bit more, and also how long a product lasts. The kind of replacement of that, given this is something that's ongoing and is being used constantly, I presume.
Yeah, definitely. So at the moment, in terms of the business model, we would like to go into sort of having an online subscription service first, as I mentioned. But then moving on from that, we really want to be able to target those patients who aren't being as active with their foot care. And that's really the aim of this. So in order to do that, we're looking into joining accelerator schemes. So the NHS has an accelerator scheme, and there's also one from pharmaceutical companies. So I have been working in a pharmacy for quite some time now, over 6 years. And with that, I've got some experience in terms of looking at ordering and reordering and how that works from their side of things. So they also do have schemes that you can join for small startups to be able to launch that into that sector as well. In terms of the margin, this would be something that is a little bit early stage for me because I'm still in the process of prototyping. But the aim is that I'm currently looking into partnering with a startup who actually do 3D printing of insoles. And that would significantly bring down the cost of the insoles themselves. And that would give us a better margin in terms of actually selling them. And in terms of the last question you asked was about how long they would be able to retain the insoles. Again, that ties in with the 3D printing. So currently normal insoles would last sort of 3-4 months at max before they sort of wear out. But with 3D printing, these insoles could last up to a year. So that would reduce costs, but also be more eco-friendly for the environment as well.
Very clear. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Great job. Thanks, Ambreen. We do have time for any follow-up questions. Judges, if you have any further questions, please just raise a hand. Kate, over to you.
As always, could you go back to competition then again, and what other smart approaches do you see coming through, and how can you compete?
Yeah, definitely. So this is actually quite an untapped territory at the moment. A lot of the competitors are to do in the sports field, and they're looking at pressure sensing. So in terms of inflammation and circulation, there's not that much out there. In terms of protecting what we have and how it's different to other companies that are already out there, we are, again, like I said, looking into patenting, but also the algorithm and the sensitivity of the insole that we have is very much different to what I could find when I was looking at competitors.
Okay, brilliant stuff. Thank you, Ambreen. Next, I would like to introduce our third team to pitch, Suru Together. And before we hear that pitch, I'll hand over to the co-founder, Georgina Dennis, to introduce herself and her team. Over to you.
Thank you so much, and hello everyone. My name is Georgie Dennis, and I'm joined today by Nicola Pescatelli.
Hi.
We are co-founders at Suru Together, and we have developed a product called Sai. It's a social platform that builds ideas and bridges. And as Sam Skerry expressed earlier, there is a real need right now for real innovation and new solutions from a diverse group of people, and our platform provides a way to do this.
Fantastic, thank you. With no further ado, let's take a look at your pitch.
Hello, my name is Georgie Dennis and I'm a co-founder at Suru Together. Our mission at Suru is to find smarter ways for people to do things together. Social challenges are more complex than ever, and the research shows that complex problems are better solved by many people deliberating many ideas. Deliberation also reduces polarization, but it doesn't scale. How would you hold a conversation about social distancing with 10,000 people? Citizens' assemblies are impossible to hold for this many people, and they're expensive. The existing online platforms do not focus on deliberation and can create dangerous ideological divides. The UK market size for public participation in civic decision-making is £1.1 billion, and each local council spends on average £2 million per year. So using our combined 20 years of experience in group decision-making, we have developed an effective method for civic engagement. I'm Georgie Dennis, a manager who delivers collaborative initiatives for the NHS and the wider health sector. Co-founder Nicola is a junior professor who has researched collective intelligence at the University of Oxford and the MIT Media Lab. With the advice of experts in civic engagement and collective intelligence, we have developed Sai, a civ tech audio platform. Imagine a city official, let's call her Maria, who needs to consult on social distancing. With Sai, Maria asks citizens to propose ideas that solve this issue, and on the platform, citizens discuss their ideas for addressing this issue in small audio chat rooms. After deliberating, people vote on their favorite idea. Then they're assigned to new groups to explore and to vote on more ideas. In small groups, it's easier to exchange data, to resolve conflict, and to come to an agreement. So when using Sai, you can reach a global consensus over just a few conversations. Sai solves Maria's need for an effective scientific approach to public participation. Sai can help Maria bridge divides by exposing people to new perspectives in a constructive way. And Maria also gets a collectively agreed idea that addresses her issue and insights into its strengths and weaknesses. Sai is white labeled as Maria's department, so Maria doesn't need to convince people to participate in something that's unknown to them, all while saving Maria's department time and money. Our business model is sustainable because it's mutually beneficial. Civic organizations pay to use the platform, and the anonymized conversations teach an AI to recognize publicly preferred solutions. Therefore, the platform and the intelligence generated on it can be monetized. We start with civic organizations to build our user base and our brand. Then we will grow our customer base to include public-facing private organizations, such as a construction company reshaping the public landscape. The revenue from the AI insights goes back to the citizens that generated it using Sai as an equitable way to incentivize and to sustain their participation. This also reduces the impact of a cold start problem faced by many new platforms. So Sai is an innovative way to leverage the intelligence of the people who know the needs of their community best. Maria's existing solutions rely on outdated public participation methods like forums and polling. Our method and value proposition has been validated by civic organizations, and we project revenues of 21 million by 2026. At Suru, we have been delivering participatory decision-making events since 2020, starting with the Tate Modern. Our paying customers include Merck and the NGO Protection International, who have paid to use an early version of our platform. During WE Innovate, we consulted 16 experts in privacy and citizen participation, including ongoing conversations with Mauricio Muriguia, policy analyst at the OECD and author of the OECD's 2020 Deliberative Democracy Report. Last month, we successfully pitched for €50,000 of funding from an EU Horizon 2020 research and innovation program. This funding will be used to build the SCI MVP this summer, and participation in WE Innovate has honed our product market fit so that we can market this MVP. We plan to bring SCI to the global market, such as the US, and our vision is to be pioneers of effective, large-scale public participation in new sectors, such as sports. We asked WE Innovate for the resources to build our brand and develop the MVP, and support from the WE Innovate network to grow our team, our reach, and our impact. And I'll end here with a quote from Maya, a sports and community engagement officer at Lewisham Council. Thank you.
Brilliant stuff. Thank you, Georgie. Let's cross back over to the judges now, and Alexis, starting with you.
Thank you. Well, obviously a really important piece of technology given where we are politically in the world and in terms of COVID and the many challenges. I'm actually dialing in from California, and so I'm based in the States. And we've just gone through a rather, I would say, aggressive political year behind us. And when I was listening to your pitch and I was preparing for this, I guess the two things that jumped out at me most were the scientific approach that you referenced. So when you say you're using a scientific approach, what does that mean? So I'm looking at it as if I were a consumer and I'm thinking about what is the scientific approach? And then how do you prevent the problem that's really, I think, challenged platforms similar to this in the States, which is the ability to create bots and fake news and many people hopping onto a platform and really adding spurious information.
Excellent questions, thank you. And thanks for sharing your experience in California. So to answer your second question first, with how do we prevent the manipulation of the discussions that are happening on the platform. That's why we have developed our product to be an audio platform, because it's much harder for a bot or a kind of external force to almost simulate a person in an audio space. The other thing that we do to prevent this happening is to work to build our platform based around small groups discussions. So you'll notice if you have a look at any of the other online participatory decision-making platforms, it's about signaling your preference. So you are able to vote or you're able to post your opinion online. But that doesn't mean that there's ever any need to validate what you've said or respond to someone, for example. Whereas if you have small group audio discussions, it means that someone can ask questions about, well, why have you posted this? Why have you said that? And in that way, verify if what you're saying is true or not. So those are two ways in which we are very different from other forums or polling or social media platforms in that way. The science is an interesting one, and our product has been built by thinking about the science of how people behave together and how they behave online. For example, one of the ways in which we've designed SCI is to prevent the proliferation of errors or false information. And again, that's because what we hold are small group conversations that happen in parallel. So if there is something that's factually incorrect, or if there is an error within that discussion, it's really hard for that error to kind of expand and influence lots of people all at once, which is what you see in something like social media. Nick, do you want to say anything else about the science?
So like this is exactly what Georgie said. Like by parallelizing these conversations, it's much easier like to really like maintain like the information correct, factually correct, as well as there is research showing that when conversations happen in small groups, actually people listen to each other more, and they tend to converge toward the middle, rather than, for example, when you are on a public square, with hundreds of people, and then it's much easier to choose just the side that you are in, and have this us versus them mentality, and so going to the extremes rather than converging to the middle.
Yeah. And so the smallness and the humanness of the voice, you think will allow for the instantaneous fact checking when someone puts something into this small group, that there's a bias to control to the truth based on the human voice rather than anonymizing a text. Exactly. I'm trying to paraphrase what I think that you just said. Okay.
Yeah, exactly that. And then the other thing about the science and thinking about the science of behavior and how people act is when you look at how public participation is done in other social media spaces and other social platforms, there is something called like homophily, which is our kind of like internal bias to find the things that we feel familiar with, the opinions that we feel familiar with. And on our platform, we actually maximize how much people are exposed to something different, but in a way that's super productive so that you can still have a conversation and resolves the kind of like them versus us. Again, because it's small, it's human, and it's a big conversation that's happened in parallel and is automatically facilitated to make it easier for someone to be a part of it.
And just one last bit is that we are working also with KCL in London, as well as like Eurecat in Barcelona, to really have our first test. And it's going to be like an empirical comparison between our method versus like traditional polling methods.
Yeah. Okay, excellent. Thank you. I'm very complete.
Okay, brilliant stuff. We haven't got a huge amount of time left, but I'm going to ask Kate to join us next.
Yeah, super speedy. Gina, fantastic. I thought it was really interesting presentation and product, actually. Looking at your slide on target market, you defined that at £1.1 billion. And that, I think you were just defining it UK-based civic organisations. Yeah. So just talk to me a little bit about how you got to that number, and also then what you think the global scope is.
Yeah, so there has already been previous market research looking at public participation, direct democracy, participatory budgeting that's done by civic organizations like a local council or a local community group. And that market research shows that those organizations spend 1.1 billion in an effort to hear what people think and feel and what people prefer when it comes to addressing their agendas around social issues. And so that's where we got to that number.
Yeah, but local organisations, civic organisations, are not going to spend £30,000.
When we talk about local civic organisations, we're talking about local councils, local authorities, larger community groups or national charities that might have a base of like patients, for example, that want to use this platform to hear from their constituents or their stakeholders.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. We have about 3 minutes left. Sam, can I pass over to you?
Sure, yeah, I'll keep it short. So really clear presentation. Thank you, Georgie. Great. One real question I have, which is impressive to see that you've already got paying customers. So I'm keen to understand what feedback have you had already from those paying customers, and what have you changed as a result, if anything?
Yeah, so our paying customers have been using a very early version of our platform that we created last year, that we created as a prototype, but actually functioned really well so that we can actually use it. So our early customers are organizations that want to use our platform for participatory decision making with their teams. So it's not for like a public use, and those, like it says in the presentation, have included Merck. At the end of the month, we're working with the University of Oxford for the scholars at Christ Church College. And the feedback that came from that was that it needs to be audio. Right now, our platform is text-based, so it's like having one big group text conversation, and audio will go a lot further in helping people really deliberate and share ideas in a much user-friendly way than having to read through lots of text from people. So that's one of the main ways we're changing our platform.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Perfect timing. Thank you to Georgie and Nicolo. Next, our fourth pitch, and I'd like to welcome the co-founders of Zyme Biosciences, Dr. Marta Broto and Dr. Leah Brainette. And I'm going to ask Marta to join us and introduce the team first.
Hi, thank you, Raya. My name is Marta, and I'm a postdoctoral researcher with 10 years of experience in clinical diagnostic research. In our team, we also have Leah, also a postdoctoral researcher with experience in material development. We also have Paresh, who is a staff at Imperial and has expertise in translational management. And Shan, a PhD student that has been helping in the development of what we're going to present you today.
Brilliant. Thank you, Marta. Let's take a look at your pitch now.
I am Marta Broto from Zyme Biosciences, the key to empower early diagnosis and improve patient care. Clinical diagnosis is currently performed in centralized laboratories, which takes days to get results. But we could greatly expand the clinical diagnostic capacity of the NHS if we could move disease diagnosis from hospitals and laboratories to every GP surgery, even in small clinics. We will make clinical diagnostic available anytime, anywhere. Our vision is to offer innovative solutions to foster fast disease diagnosis and personalized medicine, focusing on ultrasensitive point-of-care technologies. QuickZyme is our first product. It is a small integrated disposable device for disease diagnosis. Integrated steps make it user-friendly and fast, providing results in only 20 minutes. It can provide both qualitative and quantitative analysis, and our key selling point is that QuickZyme has better analytical sensitivity than competing technologies. Our launching product and initial prototype is designed to diagnose COVID-19. We have proved that our test performs 100 times better in the lab, and now we are working to prove that it can outperform competitors in clinical settings. But this is just the beginning. We already have ongoing research to use this technology for the early diagnosis of a suite of infectious and non-communicable diseases. We have already approached healthcare professionals or possible customers. Dr. Sanjay Prasad, a clinician we work from the Royal Brompton Hospital, emphasized an important need is the right test to the right patient at the right time. And Professor Cristina Fotopoulo from the Imperial College Healthcare Trust highlighted how this product could face an unmet need in the care of her patients. Also, several institutions and funders, both from Europe and the United Kingdom, have supported the research to develop this device, and now we are ready to commercialize it. We are currently working on the intellectual property landscape of our research. It includes a suite of patents on reagents and on the device automation. And we are also planning to protect the device design through registered design right and trademark. Our business model is based on providing diagnostic solutions for a range of diseases, and also licensing our intellectual property portfolio for specific uses and geographies. We expect that our launching product, QuickZyme, focusing on coronavirus diagnosis, can tap into the growing market of diagnostic technology. We hope to have up to 5% of the market with our product in 6 years' time. Building on years of internationally recognized work, last year we received funding to proceed with the rapid development of a test for coronavirus diagnosis. This funding allowed us to produce initial prototypes. This year, thanks to the funding of a global biopharma, we are working on engineering the integrated device and testing the performance in clinical settings. Additionally, with the support from WE Innovate, we are working on our intellectual property portfolio, defining our business model and looking for the right commercial support for our enterprise. Next year, we expect to incorporate Zyme Biosciences and launch our first product. And who is behind Zyme Biosciences and the success of this research? My name is Marta, and I have set up a team of researchers to help on the different aspects of this venture. Paresh is leading on operations and intellectual property. Leah is leading on technical device engineering, and Shine is finalizing some development experiments in the lab. Furthermore, we are supported by Professor Molly Stevens, well-renowned professor of Imperial College London, with great connections both in academia and industry in the in vitro diagnostic technology world. Thanks to this team, we have been able to do phase 0 and 1, and with additional support funding, we will be able to achieve phases 2 and 3. But what we really need to do to get this company off the ground is to incorporate the company and make sure we establish our IP and bring it in to the company. But we cannot do this alone. If we win WE Innovate Final prize, we will use the money to support the filing of our intellectual property and hire a lawyer that will help on venture incorporation. We are Design Biosciences. Thank you for your attention.
Another brilliant pitch there. And time now for the judges' Q&A. Alexis, starting with you.
Great, thank you so much. And well done, really important innovation, and especially now. I have two quick questions. The first one is, this is a really crowded space, certainly in the States. So I'd like to know what your barriers to entry are, and why did you choose the two vectors that you did to go after for the actual test?
Yeah, we know that the market is quite crowded. 50% of the market is led by two major companies, and then the other 50% is segmented in smaller companies. But we really think that the 100% better performance that we have achieved in the lab will be able to compete with all these technologies that cannot reach all this sensitivity. And for this reason, the healthcare providers will shift to our product instead of the ones that are currently in the market.
And why did you choose the two vectors, infectious disease and communicable disease? Why did you choose those two specifically?
Yeah, so we decided, we already had been working in this product, and we decided to start with COVID right now because it's a trend it's easier right now to get into the market with this product. But then we would like to work with other non-communicable diseases like ovarian cancer or cardiovascular diseases, from which we already have collaborations and projects ongoing to devise these solutions.
Okay, excellent, thank you.
Okay, Kate, over to you next.
So I'm interested, I mean, I do worry about the complexity of the market and the players already there. I'd like to understand about patenting strategy and just give you a little bit more on the evidence that you've got 100 times better sensitivity.
Yeah, in terms of the patenting strategy, so we have already filed a know-how document with the Imperial Tech Transfer Office, which covers a few different technical aspects of the test. In the meantime, we are in the process of filing for a patent to protect the manufacturing of the particles in the test itself, together with Imperial Tech Transfer Office. And also we're in the process of filing another patent in addition to that, which would protect the mechanics and automation of the device, integrated device itself. And finally, file for trademark application for QuickSime. And together, at least for the QuickSime product, we feel will be pretty well covered, compared to our competitors.
For the 100-fold better sensitivity, what we've done is that we have developed this set of reagents that can provide this better performance. We have tested in the lab, both with antigens and viruses, that it performs better. What we're planning to do now is to work with the clinical samples to check that this performance is translated to the real settings.
Thank you.
Okay, and Sam, over to you next.
Thank you. I was curious to understand, so on the horizon, what's next in terms of deployment beyond COVID-19? What else could you use this for? And also interested to understand, so who you see as the paying customer for this in terms of the business model and how you commercialize it?
Yeah, so like Marta mentioned, ovarian cancer and cardiovascular diseases will be our first targets after coronavirus.
Our market will go through healthcare providers. We already have a letter of intent from a UK healthcare provider that is interested in this product.
And my last question was going to be, I guess, how well do you understand what the regulatory hurdles are in terms of getting the product accepted, and how that factors into your business model in terms of timeline to launch?
Yeah, so we have already started working in the pathway to regulatory approval. First, we need to find the right manufacturer. We already started working with a manufacturer which will produce the upscale device. And all that information will also be used to proceed to regulatory approval. And we also are planning on the clinical cohort to proceed to all these paper regulation. So we already started planning for it.
Great, thank you. Sounds like you've got quite far in your plans. Thank you.
We do have a few minutes left. If any judges have any follow-up questions, please do raise your hands. Yep, Alexis, over to you.
Thank you. Where are you currently manufacturing the product?
So we started in the UK because it's kind of what is more interested for UK healthcare providers instead of resourcing from all over the world. They prefer to just have local production of this type of devices right now.
Okay, and then what is your first target market outside of the UK?
Europe and the States.
When you say Europe, is it one country that you're looking at, or
regulatory approval? We are looking into UK, CE mark, and also FDA approval.
Right, that's exactly the question and the answer. Thank you.
Great stuff. Well done, Team Biosciences. For our fifth and final team, Paige is co-founded by Carolina Gomez and Nina Mutanez. And to introduce the team, I'm going to ask Nina to join us now. Nina, over to you.
So, hi everyone. My name is Nina and I am one of the co-founders of Paige. At Paige, we're working to produce an affordable multi-line Braille display to increase Braille literacy worldwide. We strongly believe that everyone should have affordable access to Braille and have a say in the technology designed for them. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. And time now to take a look at your pitch.
Hi, I'm Carolina, co-founder of Paige, and we're creating the world's first low-cost and multi-line Braille reader.
There are over 338 million people who have a significant visual impairment, of which 43 million are blind. These people communicate using Braille, a tactile system which enables them to read, write, and access information. Braille technology has evolved from mechanical typewriters and Braille paper to digital devices. These act like an electronic reader or a Kindle tablet for the blind. However, these devices are still quite limited. Most of them cost £2,000 or even more, which limits access to Braille technology worldwide. Nearly all Braille devices are limited to a single line of text, and this makes simple tasks very time-consuming. Imagine having to read a book and only seeing 4 or 5 words at a time. Moreover, it makes it practically impossible for the visually impaired to engage in STEM fields or any other subject that requires context. Imagine having to solve a mathematical fraction like this one and only seeing 1 line at a time. We aim to change this. Our team is building Paige, the world's first low-cost and multi-line Braille reader. Paige allows its users to read in up to 20 lines, each with 25 characters per line. Our completely different technological approach allows us to reduce the price of our device to £300. Paige will greatly improve the reading experience of people with low vision, making reading simpler and faster. Specifically, Paige will be a valuable tool for education in STEM fields. We have included features in our device that make it a key tool for learning mathematics, such as a tactile graphing display and a built-in calculator. Our device can cost up to 10 times less than competing alternatives. By making Paige more affordable, we aim to increase accessibility to Braille readers all over the world. The current competitive landscape is quite fragmented, with a lot of single-line display manufacturers. However, these devices are expensive and offer a limited range of features to its users. Paige is the only multi-line solution at a fraction of the cost, and it still comes with STEM-specific features. It also has the additional benefit of being easy to repair, maintain, and manufacture. For our entry into the market, we are focusing on professionals and students that are already Braille users. Considering only people that are blind, that's 11.7 million users. which equates to a market size of £3.5 billion. Devices like Page are mainly distributed by governmental and non-governmental organizations. These organizations have already established networks with individuals, schools, and centers for people with low vision. We have already partnered with the Kilimanjaro Blind Trust, the biggest Braille device distributor in Africa. We intend to partner with similar organizations in Europe and North America, and we estimate we can reach 25,000 to 30,000 people in these areas in the first 5 years of sales. Our team is composed of MEng biomedical engineering students from Imperial College London who combine the technical expertise, and 2 alumni who have experience in entrepreneurship and business development. We're also being supported by a very experienced board of external advisors with a diverse range of skills and expertise. As well as the Kilimanjaro Blind Trust, we're also being supported by members of Imperial's bioengineering department, by Inaglob, an organization promoting social entrepreneurship, and by several other organizations in the world of Braille, such as the Braillist Foundation in London. So far, we have confirmed our proof of concept, which was tested in a controlled domestic environment, and we've been able to raise £5,900. We have also interviewed 12 Braille users who have confirmed the need for a device like Page. We have also built our second prototype for user testing, and we will be carrying out our first in-person tests in early June with a school for people with visual impairment in Lancashire. Securing the WE Innovate prize would allow us to complete our 3 key next steps. We would execute our IP strategy by filing a patent application. We would finish our 3rd round of prototyping with our 25 character per line device, and we would be able to secure a part-time position to 2 team members, which would accelerate our business and prototyping development. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. And time now for the final judges Q&A. And Alexis, over to you to start.
I really like the fact that there's a STEM component to this. Where is the device manufactured?
So at the moment, we're still trying to develop our MVP. And so we're using manufacturing processes with a very low tooling cost because existing competitors are using manufacturing processes with quite a high tooling cost, which means that their final price is quite high. And the benefit of the manufacturing processes we're using is that they're affordable in quite small scales as well as quite large scales. And so we'll be able to scale to provide the reach we want in future.
Sorry, and I missed the first part. The components in the actual device are manufactured where?
I can't go into too much detail about the specific components. I'd be happy to discuss that offline in more detail if that would be okay.
No problem. Let me just jump to the next question. 11.7 million potential adopters of the device at £300. What portion of that 11.7 million would be in developing countries where £300 would be prohibitive?
Yeah, so the actual distribution of Braille users is quite homogeneous, even in between developing and developed regions. The £300 cost would actually be subsidized by some of these organizations and governmental organizations in developing countries. So the Kilimanjaro Blind Trust, which operates in 5 markets in East Africa, has subsidized more expensive devices and has told us that £300 would not be a prohibitive cost for them. So similar organizations should be able to pay the £300 cost to manufacture our device.
Great, thank you.
Okay, Kate, over to you next.
Tell me about your team and who actually has first-hand experience of Braille devices.
No one does. We rely a lot on user testing, and this has been, Gregory has been doing some user testing over the past few weeks, as we mentioned in the presentation. So we do rely heavily on our organizations that support us, and they're very close to us in the designing process to make sure that we really understand how to tailor the product to their needs.
My suggestion is you embed somebody in your team, because that's not, you know, asking people to do beta tests is very different from somebody who is completely committed to getting this device scaled. I mean, I do think the idea is fantastic. I also feel you've got a slightly bifurcated market, because one is, how do you get low-cost devices to low-income countries, and the second is, how do you support, you know, complex STEM functionality so that you can read formulae. I mean, things like that. And both of those I think are really cool. But my questions are really about how can you make sure that your product is actually going to get designed for those who are actually going to use it?
So the project was originally sourced from the Kilimanjaro Blind Trust, who are distributing these displays, as we've mentioned. We've also conducted a brief survey and interviewed 12 Braille users to confirm the need for our device. And then we've conducted further testing with a Braille user in person, and her feedback was invaluable in informing a next stage of testing, which we did at New College Worcester, which is a school for the visually impaired. And we have received the feedback from 3 Braille users, and they've all used Braille since childhood and have extensive knowledge of Braille and Braille technology. And then in addition to this, the school was involved in early testing for the Orbit Reader 20 and Canoe 360. And these are the most affordable single and multi-line displays on the market, respectively. And so this early feedback was targeted at perfecting the feel of the display, so that the Braille is crisp and the reading experience is really enjoyable, because it's the first thing that people will be interacting with. And then we further had positive feedback about our general approach and the technology from them.
Okay, thank you. You might want to also consider Hereford College of the Blind.
Let's cross over to Sam next. We have about 3 minutes left, Sam, so if you could keep it relatively brief, that'd be great.
Thank you. Yeah, I think Kate's addressed one of my questions, which was about affiliations, and Alexis too, in the question, because I was really curious about what's driving the lower cost of the product in terms of manufacture versus the alternatives, and I think you addressed that in terms of low tooling. I guess one of the things I was curious about, given the nature of the product, is any concerns about the supply chain of manufacture in, you know, given changes in the environment and supply chain challenges today.
The prices constitute the expected cost and a revenue margin, and our device has a very low part count and uses readily available materials and off-the-shelf components. So existing competitors use manufacturing techniques with really high tooling costs, as I mentioned, and they don't really benefit from the economies of scale because their highly priced devices are only serving quite a small market. So by using manufacturing techniques with low tooling costs, we can serve Braille users from low income settings. And these manufacturing techniques are affordable for both large and small scale, as I mentioned. The other thing is that existing manufacturers are actuators, they have an actuator inside which moves the dots, and that's just the part that moves the mechanism, and they have one for each Braille dot. And so even something as short as a tweet, which is 240 characters, is 1,680 individual Braille dots that they've got to control. So the part count goes through the roof very quickly, and we've managed to reduce that number of actuators, which are the parts moving the mechanism.
One really quick question, which is in a number of the other presentations, we've heard about a personal connection to the product. I'm just curious to understand, you know, given Kate's question about representation, or Alexis's on the team, what led you to this as a team? Why this?
We're all, well, Greg, Sergio, and Carolina, who's not here today, we're all in the same year in the same engineering course. And this was proposed as a second-year engineering design project. It was proposed by the KBT to Imperial College. So they came and they told us explicitly, what we're lacking is an affordable multi-line display for those and those reasons. And so that's where it all started. And then at the end of our second year, we really enjoyed it and decided to continue working on it on our own time. And since then, Davide and another Sergi have joined the team. But it was all initially sourced directly from the KBT.
Great, thank you. Thanks.
Just to quickly add to that, I think something else which hasn't been mentioned is that these visually impaired users, students, etc., they're often, let's say, neglected. There hasn't been a lot of innovation, a lot of technological advancements to help them and cater for their needs. So something which we've been very, speaking to them and learning about their difficulties on a daily basis, something that for us, instead we're taken for granted, has actually spoken to us quite strongly. And we're feeling very strongly the need to help them achieve what for us, it's inconceivable.
Thank you.
Brilliant stuff. Thank you, Team Page, and bang on time there too. That brings us to the end of our pitches, and I'm sure you'll agree our judges have a pretty tough job ahead of them, reviewing each team's innovation, solution potential and expertise to decide ultimately who will be this year's WE Innovate Final 2021 Grand Prize winner. So first and foremost, say very good luck to all of the teams involved. Now, while the judging panel leave us to deliberate, we have a very special guest joining us with a keynote speech all the way from South Africa. Natalie Jabangwe is the Group Digital Executive Officer of Sanlam Group and the former CEO of EcoCash, a role for which she was one of the youngest chief executives running a mobile money business in Africa at Zimbabwe's fastest growing mobile money service in the continent. With over 11 years experience in fintech, Natalie started her career as a software engineer and completed her executive MBA at Imperial College Business School. She was nominated among the 100 young global leaders of the World Economic Forum in 2018, and I'm delighted to say that she now shares a message with us on the theme of resilience during times of change.
Hi, my name is Natalie Jabangwe, and I am the former CEO of EcoCash, which was the fastest growing startup fintech in the whole of Africa. I took an opportunity to leave the UK and drive up this business bottom up 7 years ago at a really, really unprecedented time in Zimbabwe. Banking was absolutely low. Zimbabwe was just recovering from hyperinflation. There was only 10% of financial inclusion in Zimbabwe. It was a time that required absolute resilience, not just for the innovators that were present in the country, but also for the government and for the country in itself. And the opportunity was presented to me to see if we could build, with a great team of entrepreneurs, a new dimension to banking, a new dimension to financial inclusion. And you couldn't really see the end in sight at the beginning of it, coming out of a crisis in financial services of a country that had totally been torn down the decade earlier. But necessity is often the mother of all invention. And it goes without saying that fortune favors the bold, as Mark Zuckerberg would put it. But also, maybe even more precisely, is what Shakespeare says, needs must. It's when we're in a world that is full of challenges and problems and we can't see a way out, that it makes the most sense to actually rise to the occasion. Stepping up during a time of uncertainty in the banking crisis of Zimbabwe is something that has actually provided the dawn of light 7 years later, where 90% of Zimbabwe's adult population is now financially included. Where EcoCash that we set up 11 years ago is much bigger than all banks put together. The thing that was a real challenge of the past was a lack of access to financial services, but that was what we actually solved for during a time that required much resilience. Economies in the world goes through things like this over and over again. Historically, we're so well aware of particular times when crisis tested humanity at its very core. The 1929 depression is one of such moments that we can point to today. That is a real crisis for America, one of the most powerful countries in the world today. But isn't it amazing how leaders of that time and innovators of that time, like JP Morgan Chase, rose to the occasion and actually created new dimensions of industries, from the steel industry that he was running that went bust, and then went into financial services and created the bank that we all celebrate today, which is the largest, JP Morgan Chase. It requires the tenacity of leaders that are ambitious, that are focused, that have belief, and that can see the end in sight, particularly at a time of crisis, to solve and bring solutions out of times that are unprecedented. And I hope for yourselves, as you're crossing over the milestones of innovation, having come through a really rigorous and testing process to prove yourselves that you do realize that you are the innovation that the world has been waiting for. You are the innovation that could actually make the difference that is required by customers, by countries, by people at large to solve for the problems that they're facing. And I hail you in championships and as accomplices in innovation, also having graduated from Imperial College London with my MBA at the end of 2012. I do hope that the tenacity and the experiences and also the fortitude that you get at a place such as Imperial is enough to carry you forward to be able to break through in a world that needs so much the talent and the expertise that you have. We were able to do in Zimbabwe, out of tenacity and resilience and innovation, what banks in Zimbabwe could not do in 100 years of their existence. The power of digital, the power of technology, changed this in financial services. And these are some of the breakthroughs that we see today in fintech, not just in a place like Zimbabwe where I was, but worldwide. We're witnessing a revolution on the backdrop of technology, on the backdrop of design, on the backdrop of research and development to usher us through into the future, whether it be climate change, whether it be challenges in community, social enterprises. It is a diversity of challenges that humanity is presented with today. But I think it takes people just as simple as us who are well-focused and who are well-believing and who are well-knowledgeable to push the boundaries and to push the barriers. And like Shakespeare put it, needs must. Good luck to you all as you innovate and as you win in transforming the world. Thank you.
Wise words from our keynote speaker there, Natalie Jabangwe, Group Digital Executive Officer of Sanlam Group and the former CEO of EcoCash. I'd like to welcome back our judges now. And as a reminder, our judging panel were tasked with scoring the 5 brilliant finalist teams based on their innovation, their potential to grow, and their team expertise. And I'm really pleased to say they have now come to a final decision. So let's kick off with the People's Vote, the Lauren Dennis Award. And to announce the winner, I'm joined by Kate. Over to you, Kate.
And so for the past week, the public has been voting online to choose their favourite WE Innovate team and to award them a tailored mentoring programme. And we very much enjoyed this presentation. And so I'm pleased to announce that the winner of this year's People's Prize, the Lauren Dennis Award, is Zyme. Well done, guys.
Many congratulations to the team there. Next, it's the Engineers in Business Award, and Alexis, to announce that, over to you.
I have the honor of presenting the Engineers in Business Award. This award goes to 2 phenomenal teams made up of engineers that are changing the way we live through positive impact. The teams have been selected based on their innovation, dedication, and progress throughout the program. And the winners of the Engineers in Business Award taking home a share of the £3,000 prize fund are Paige and Zion.
Huge congratulations to both teams there. That brings us on to the grand final prizes, and to make the announcements, I'd like to welcome Sam back to join us. Over to you, Sam.
So you absolutely did give us a difficult task today. So for many, starting up a venture can be a really daunting experience, and it takes special talent to identify new opportunities, to take risk, and have the courage and ability to collaborate with people along that journey to solve some of the world's most pressing issues. And we really did see some of that here today. All the women-led teams have shown these qualities during their journey on the WE Innovate programme. It's with great honour that I announce the winners of this year's WE Innovate Final, starting with our 2 runners-up, Zyme Biosciences and Happier Health. Well done to both teams. Among the judges, we decided to award a joint second runners-up prize for the WE Innovate Final to Paige and to Neurosol. Paige, we were impressed by what began as a second-year project and clearly has become a passion. And we saw impressive progress in an area that enables STEM development, which is clearly such an important area in the world today. And in Neurosol, impressive personal connection from the founder to the project, and significant progress made with what is really such a small team today at the outset, and where that has started. So well done to both of those teams. And I'm delighted to announce that the winner of the WE Innovate Grand Prize of £15,000 goes to Suru Together. We've chosen Suru Together as what we see as the first alternative to existing platforms that adds a much needed layer of transparency compared to its alternatives. We saw real progress in this team, and frankly, all of the teams in what we acknowledge as judges is really a difficult year for any businesses to make progress. But in this team, we felt they had made significant progress getting to first sales, and in the process of it having evolved and pivoted their project along the way. So huge congratulations to the Suru Together team.
Thank you so much.
Huge congratulations to you both. I wanted to just start by saying, Georgie and Nicola, how does it feel to win?
Wow. Completely unexpected, I think. Watching everyone else's pitch and the incredibly important work that people are doing. Honestly, I'm so happy that you guys think that our mission and what we're trying to do is just as important. So thank you again from the judges. It feels great.
And Nicola, tell us what's next for your team.
So we we will keep building the MVP as we are currently are. Hopefully that will we will have something that we can release to the world at the end of July. And in September, we are planning to run our first community event. We have like a few interested candidates, and then hopefully we can share more about it at the end of the summer. Yeah,
and we'd love to share more about how it works out. We are running community tests with communities in Lambeth in London, I think it's going to be a fantastic experience to really give the platform over to the people that can find real solutions to real problems by using it.
Brilliant stuff. Well, you both look absolutely delighted, as you should. Congratulations. And many congratulations to all of the brilliant teams. Many thanks to our judging panel and BP for sponsoring the WE Innovate programme. We would, of course, love to hear your thoughts on everything you've seen via the Mentimeter. All you have to do to get in touch is enter the code, which you'll see on the YouTube live chat box at menti.com. To find out more about the Imperial Enterprise Lab, just visit imperialenterpriselab.com. And if you'd like to get involved and support the work done there, please do contact the group's director, Ben Mumby-Croft, on the email address which you'll see in the live chat, which means that's us out of time. Thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next time, and huge congrats to all of the teams involved. Thank you.